Some of these events cost $5,000. Some of them cost $20,000. The Davos, it costs $60,000. Now just think about that. An event cost $60,000 to go, or the one that cost $20,000 to go for President Clinton, you could have volunteered there. Now when I realized that, wow, the reason why most people are not successful is because we don't have access. But once you know there's access to these events where you don't have to pay $20,000 or $60,000, doesn't that blow your mind in terms of what's possible? So for me,
all right, we're live in front of a studio audience. Say hello, my friend.
what's up, world?
Christopher, you're on, baby. Finally, we made it happen.
Yes, we have. It's been months in the making.
It has been months in the making. We had a pre-recorded interview, but we decided to make it live because we was coming.
Going live.
I love it live. The pre-recorded stuff doesn't work for me. Good afternoon, or actually good morning, everybody. My name's Alex Vidal, president of Related ISG International Realty. In front of a live studio audience, and you are watching episode number 92 of The Closer Club with one of the best networkers, not in Miami, not in Florida, not in the country, but in the world, Christopher Kai. If you follow him anywhere, you see him with the Elon Musk of the world. And as a realtor, there's no greater technique or greater thing that we can do than shake hands, belly to belly, palm to palm, face to face, and that you do it via networking. And today we're going to talk everything networking. You ready, man?
Sounds great. I'm ready. Listo.
Let's do it. We got 15
Miami
minutes.
proud.
Here we go. You grew up in New York. You were working on Wall Street for American Express, to where you are now the author of 6 books, including Big Game Hunting, Networking with Billionaires. You're the CEO of the Matham Group. You've spoken at, God, I don't know how many of events.
Everywhere.
Tell us a little bit about your path to where you are today.
So, no money, no access, no connections. The first memory I had as a kid was getting punished for talking too much in class. And now I travel the world as a speaker. My mom was a school teacher, my dad's a case manager. So I tell this story because everyone thinks, wow, Chris, you're going around the world, you're speaking, you wrote these various books. I'm like, yeah, but remember where I started, where I didn't have confidence, lacked self-esteem. But when I started talking to my uncle, who hired me at his insurance company at age 12 in New York City, I'm like, wow, this is how you build a business. This is how you connect with people. And that was the first inkling of entrepreneurship in my mind. And I said, okay, if creating a business is my future and my goal and my dream, to get there, I need to network, I need to build relationships. And so I started dissecting, learning, growing, traveling the world. And now literally I just came back from Davos, Switzerland, where our president was there, where Tim Cook, I literally bumped into him on the street, was there.
I saw that photo.
Where I took a phone and his employee said, as I'm taking a selfie, what kind of phone is that? And I said, Samsung.
Tim Cook is the founder of Apple, or not the founder, he's the CEO of Apple now.
Yeah. But the story is this, very humble beginnings. Now I'm doing well as a speaker and author, but because I understood how to network well, and people always find it shocking that I'm an introvert. I wrote a book on networking, not because I like networking, I like helping people. And a lot of people are horrible at networking, therefore I'm going to write a book to help people with something that they maybe not do as well.
Sure. You know, it's funny, I joke, you said about being an introvert, I joke with people that I'm antisocial. Actually, my manager was sitting there the other day, and we went to an event that I felt so antisocial, so we have that in common. Not antisocial, but maybe it's more introvert is the better word. So we're going to dig really deep on networking, but first I want to ask you, why write the book to begin with?
Again, people kept asking me, Chris, you go to all these insane events. I've gone to events with Elon Musk and Richard Branson. Some of these events cost $5,000. Some of them cost $20,000. The Davos, it costs $60,000. Now just think about that. An event costs $60,000 to go, or the one that cost $20,000 to go for President Clinton, you could have volunteered there. Now when I realized that, wow, the reason why most people are not successful is because we don't have access. Once you know there's access to these events where you don't have to pay $20,000 or $60,000, doesn't that blow your mind in terms of what's possible? So for me, it's just about, it's like Maya Angelou was a very famous poet in the US, and she's Oprah Winfrey's mentor, and she said, when you learn, teach, when you get, give. So if I learn all this stuff, what's the point of having it if I can't give it? So as a speaker, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, I want to give knowledge that I wish I had when I started my career 20 plus years ago building my business.
Got it. Now, one of the things we have in common is we both believe that your network is your predictor to your success.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you feel so strongly about that?
Well, so this is science. This isn't Alex or me talking. This is a guy named Ron Burt who studied network science. Okay. Can you imagine how proud his mom and dad were as a mom and dad, I'm going to study network science. I'm going to get a PhD in network science. And they found by science that your network literally is the best predictor. Because if you look at your phone or my phone, like I can literally meet a TED Talk speaker or an Olympian or an astronomer only because the more broad your network is, the more opportunities you have. And this guy studied the science of it. So when I realized, okay, we all kind of know it, but when he studied the science, and I teach the science, which I'll share with you later on after this interview, then it's like, wow, I can actually apply the science to networking.
That's right. Now, you mentioned the thing about the phone. You look in your phone. I remember I had one of my top agents ask me, he goes, pulls out his phone. I had just met him. He goes, how much do you think my iPhone is worth? And I go, I don't know, $700, $800 at the time. And he goes, are you kidding me? This thing is priceless. And I'm like, why is that thing priceless? Because you have no idea the names and the phone numbers of the people that are in my phone. And having been the 92nd episode of the Closer Club, I can now agree with him because there's probably at least $10 billion worth of net worth in my phone now as a result of the show. Now, we are always preaching to you guys about growing their network. What are some simple ways, and I know you're going to dig deep later, but for the interview purposes and tease you guys about what you're going to see, what are some simple ways for agents to 10x their network?
The simplest way is look at your smartphone right now, look at the last 10 text messages you had, and how many of those last 10 text messages were from a millionaire. And if you say you want to have a millionaire client, well, if you have one millionaire out of those 10 text messages, maybe you have a 10% chance. But imagine out of those 10 text messages, 9 out of 10 were millionaires. Now you're like, oh wow, I think I have a very high chance of closing $1 million properties. It's a simple concept, but if your whole phone has 100 contacts and there's no millionaire, no Olympians, no FBI agent, whatever it might be, it's like you have to aspire to create that network of clients. And if you look at a very simple thing, who are the last 10 people you texted? Is it your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, your kid, your son, whatever it might be? But if you want to be focused on sales, on networking, on real estate, look at your phone. It's the simplest exercise with the most profound effect. Because you don't need to look at someone else as a problem or solution. Look at yourself. Simplest thing, I want to make more sales. Well, look at your phone. How many last text messages have you did sales?
Got it. So 2 things out of there I love. One is a question and one is a statement. It's your fault, right? As soon as you guys come to the realization that it's your fault, then you know that you can actually fix it. If you're going to blame something on everybody else, you can't fix it because it's their fault, not your fault, right? If you can take blame for it, then you actually know how to address it and fix it. You said FBI agent, so who's the FBI agent in your phone?
Actually, the guy who gave me this pin, his name is Chris Voss.
Oh!
He's for those of you who don't know, he's a former FBI agent, 24 years, former anti-terrorism, former SWAT, and he came to a homeless youth program that I created in LA at a shelter, and he mentored my students. And he gave this as a gift because he teaches people how to negotiate. He used to be the former chief kidnapping negotiator for the FBI. He literally would negotiate with terrorists, narcos, and bombers. He took the skill set as an FBI negotiator, top of his class in the world, and trains people, including realtors, how to negotiate. He teaches people negotiation. I teach people how to network and connect.
Guys, if there are 2 books you are going to read, one is Christopher Kai's book, Networking with Billionaires, Big Game Hunting. The next book you also want to read is Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. That book, funny enough, I posted about it yesterday. I have my entire leadership team, I have my entire staff reading this book. It has literally changed the way I communicate with my wife, with my kids, with others at this party. The negotiation was to get their phone number by the time I was done speaking to them. I made it a game. That book's changed my life. Now I'm going to teach you another lesson, right? I've been trying to get Chris on my show. I deal with his handlers, all that stuff. You are now my 1 degree of separation from Chris's cell phone. So we're gonna talk about that off camera because he absolutely needs to be on the show. You are 1 degree. By the way, if you don't think you have millionaires in your phone, you are 1 degree of separation from millionaires and billionaires. Trust me on that one, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
All right. What I love about your background is you specifically do work with realtors. What strategies do you implement to help them scale their business?
The simplest thing, as you said earlier on, it's like, why are you going to a real estate conference? It's all numbers. If you want to sell a $500,000 property, do they have the salary to buy a $500,000 property? If you want a $5 million property, do they have a salary? So my clients in Beverly Hills, they're not going to a Starbucks. They're going to the Christie's or Sotheby's. They're going to an art gallery in Goshen that happened last week. They're going to polo matches. I went to a Jamie Foxx event last week for the Super Bowl. It cost $3,000 to go. So you have to start pricing out yourself and going to events that they charge money. If you go to events that, and trust me, I've met thousands of realtors. The worst thing you can do is email me, LinkedIn me, Instagram me, and say, hey, Christopher, in case you ever need a realtor, let me know. Oh, sure, of course I'm going to forward you a contact of mine who has a $5 million home, and of course I'm going to do that, right? Yeah. So the first thing is don't ask for anything. The better thing to do is one realtor literally reached out to me after a call and said, Christopher, I loved your book. Thanks so much, Eric. What are you up to? What are you passionate about? What are you focusing on? Oh, I'm actually going to a conference in Puerto Rico for realtors. Oh, awesome. Do they have need for speakers? I don't know. Let me ask. He ended up asking. I ended up speaking there. And who's the person that I ended up referring my clients to after a series of times? Because he was giving, I was giving. But I get approached literally all around the world. So the single first most important thing is don't ask for anything. Ideally give. Whether if you know I'm a speaker and you're like, oh wow, Christopher, you're a great speaker. Maybe you can speak at my office or whatever, you know? Because I'm giving my value here. I charge a lot of money for speeches. Right. But Alex and I, we have a history in that his employee, Brenda Legozamo, is my coworker at American Express 23 years ago. That's right. And I really respect her, so she said, could you please talk to my boss? He's an awesome guy. All right, cool. Otherwise, why would I be here as I'm flying to LA and Australia for a speech, you know, but I want to build relationships. So the single most important thing is research your events. If the person in the room is not a potential client, why are you in that room? It's a simple thing. For instance, if I'm a videographer right now or a photographer, I would want to be in this room because I have a 100% chance of finding clients. Now, if you go to any event and you ask a basic question, what's the probability of finding a client in this room? And it's simple math. If you have a $1 million property, a $500,000 property, then just ask yourself, what salary does that person need to buy my property? And if the percentage of the people in the room don't have the salary to buy your property, why are you wasting your time in that room? It's so simple, but people don't do it. Does that make sense?
That's gold, man. Catalina and I went to an event on it was Thursday, right? Thursday, and it was like all these realtors, and they dressed up like it was their high school prom. Like they were all decked out. It was all realtors, and you could tell they didn't care anything about the property. All they cared about was the free food and the drink. That's it. And yet they're there wasting their Thursday night when they could have gone to the event that I went to afterwards, which was the grand opening of a business, which I knew that there would be ballers there. All right, let's talk about public speaking. I actually don't like public speaking. I'm a little shy. No, I freaking love public speaking.
Really? Okay.
Love it, love it, love it. A lot of people are terrified about it though. What are some tips you can share with the audience about becoming a better public speaker?
Well, first of all, know that we're here for a purpose. We're here to engage, we're here to serve. My mother just passed away 2 months ago. And when someone like that so close passes away, it really solidifies why you're here on earth. And when I was there at my mother's funeral, I'm like, this sucks, this is so bad, this is horrible, but it really helped define and really deepen my own commitment to people that I want to work with. I'm at a point where in my career, in my business, I don't need to work with anyone I don't want to work with, whether with clients included, sure. Right? So I'm like, if you want to really give back, you need to be clear on what's your message and how can you give. With my mother, that's an example of how I've deepened my commitment, but it's all about, if you have a message, a story, which you all have, you share that. Is it scary? Yes, at first, but you share it again and again and again, and over time, if you focus on your audience and the people you impact, it's not about Alex or me. It's about you. It's about the impact you make. Think about this. Any speaker you've ever been moved by, it was how they made you feel about yourself. It wasn't necessarily about them. It's that you saw your story in them. So I'm not egotistical enough to think they care about me or you. Sorry, Alex.
No, I feel
it's about them. So when you have that clear, single-minded, crystal clear purpose of serving other people, then speaking is just, I'm going to share a story in the hope that I can inspire and move and encourage someone to be a better version of themselves.
There you go. Last question I asked every guest, and I already know the answer, and I want you to do it. Book, podcast, or TED Talk recommendation. Let's go with the book. What book do you recommend for the audience to read? You're holding it.
Aside from mine.
No, plug yours, man. I want you to plug yours.
Well, here's the thing. It took me 20 years to write this book where I travel hundreds of thousands of miles. And some of these concepts are very simple. And I write that in my book. It's not about learning new things sometimes. It's relearning old things in a new way. You know, you talk about investing on Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. It's simple. You find companies that are undervalued, you find a great management, and you hold, and then you eventually sell it. It's simple, but we don't want simple. We want complicated. No. How do you find events to find clients? You find events where the people in the room have a salary that can buy that thing. How do you follow up? Avenues of follow-up. Articles, videos, and events. Give them an article that'll inspire them. Give them a video that inspires them. Send events to them that you can invite them to, especially with events. The higher success a person has, the less time or desire they want to hang out with you. But if I have a former CFO of Coffee Bean, which is comparable to Starbucks in LA, she doesn't care about going to some coffee shop. But if I say, hey, Jack Welch, who she admires, is giving a speech, I want to invite you to a Jack Welch event. Now all of a sudden, that person that's not interested in you says, well, I want to go to Jack Welch. Or Alex did that today. Well, if I wasn't going to be on a plane today, flying to LA and to Australia tomorrow, he'd say, hey, why don't you come and watch my interview? Cool. But I'm not going to be here, but he offered. You're better off offering something, and so now you're giving, and therefore they kind of almost feel compelled to give back. But as realtors, I'm telling you this, you have to be a better communicators. Don't even talk about real estate. Ask them things like, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Or what was the most memorable thing, which I did on the Instagram, right? You're having a conversation, building a rapport, because first of all, I find most realtors, they just all blend together. So they're not outstanding speakers. The word outstanding means you're standing out. So share stories. Even if you say something as, oh, well, I saw this really awesome speaker named Christopher Kai, and he has the coolest hair. It's simple and stupid, it's silly, but you laughed. And they're gonna laugh too. So now you stand out. Then it's about building rapport. Don't even think about properties and selling. Yeah, it's cool, but talk about rapport. I have a CEO that I met in Dubai 2 weeks ago, and I asked him, what are you looking forward to this weekend? He said, my daughter is having a swim meet. I asked open-ended question, okay, what's your daughter's name and how old is she? Her name is Maya, she's 10 years old. Now I know about who he's most passionate about talking to. That's called building rapport. When you build rapport, then you talk about sales. I meet way too many realtors, even on the high end. Oh, I got a property. I don't care about your property. I don't even know you.
That's right.
So stand out as a communicator, talk about my hair, build rapport, and then talk about the sales, because the more higher up it is, the longer it might take. And trust me when I say, I have so many realtors, they say, well, Chris, I know billionaires. And I'm like, well, did you ever ask them? They're like, no. Because they assume that just because they know the billionaire as a friend, they're gonna, you know how busy billionaires are? Think about this. If you're a billionaire, which all of you can be, you can go anywhere you want, meet anyone you want, buy anyone you want, be with anyone you want, so they have choices. So you can't assume that they can think of you. You have to be in their face at least every quarter. And I do this for myself all the time too. I have a Saudi prince that's going to invite me to train his staff in Saudi Arabia. I'm always pinging him every few weeks. Oh, hey, you're into VC work. Do you want to potentially speak at this conference? Offering value. I'm not going to assume he's going to care about me, but he wants to share his message about eating less meat. He wants to invest in impact things. So what am I going to do? Focus on him, not me. And he asked me, oh, you want to train my staff? Perhaps. This is a freaking Saudi prince. His dad's the 45th richest guy in the world. And he's asking me to potentially train his staff.
There you go. Chris, I'm going behind the camera to wrap up. This was, I know we had the pre-recorded version, but we did it with not a live audience. We did it with a live audience today. I'm gonna go behind the camera. Any parting words for the camera, for the viewing audience, because you're gonna have a lot of words for the audience behind the camera before we go.
So whether you're a realtor, a CEO, it doesn't matter. If you want to improve your network, look at your phone and whoever you want to be like. You want to be healthier? Well, how many people on your phone are healthy? You want to be more successful financially? All you have to do is look at your phone. Don't blame other people. Don't blame where you came from. That's all BS and an excuse. Be brutally honest with yourself and just look at your phone.
There you go.